Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today we're diving into Marc Levinson's The Box, how the shipping container made the world smaller and the world economy bigger.
Okay.
It's a deep dive into how something as simple as a standardized shipping container
Right.
revolutionized global trade and continues to impact our world today.
At first glance, a shipping container might seem mundane.
Sure.
It's a big metal box, right? But as Levinson so brilliantly illustrates,
Yeah.
this seemingly simple invention sparked a logistical revolution, connecting economies and reshaping industries in ways we're still grappling with today.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We'll trace the journey of containerization from its chaotic beginnings to its current global dominance.
Wow.
We'll explore the key players, the technological innovations,
Right.
the intense labor struggles, and the profound economic consequences of this seemingly humble invention.
It's a story full of fascinating twists and turns,
Yeah.
triumphs and tragedies. And it all starts with a simple question. What if we could move goods around the world more efficiently?
Okay, so let's set the stage.
Okay.
Levinson paints a vivid picture of the pre-container world, a world of inefficient ports,
Right.
laborious loading processes, and a system ripe for disruption. It's hard to imagine now, but before containerization, goods were often handled piecemeal,
Wow.
leading to delays, damage, and theft.
Oh.
Imagine mountains of goods piled haphazardly on docks,
Wow.
longshoremen scrambling for work, and a system riddled with corruption.
It was a logistical nightmare. Levinson describes the shape-up system for hiring longshoremen, where workers would literally line up and beg for a day's work,
Oh, wow.
often subject to the whims of corrupt hiring bosses.
Right.
It's a stark reminder of how far we've come and the human cost of those inefficiencies.
And into this chaos steps Malcolm McLean, a trucking entrepreneur with a revolutionary idea.
Interesting.
What if instead of loading and unloading individual items,
Where?
we could move entire truck trailers onto ships? It seems so obvious now, but at the time it was a radical concept.
McLean's genius wasn't just in the idea itself, but in his relentless pursuit of making it a reality. He faced countless obstacles, from skeptical investors to entrenched industry interests, but he persevered, driven by his vision of a more efficient and cost-effective shipping system.
And that persistence paid off.
Yeah.
Levinson takes us through the development of the container system step by step, highlighting the key innovations that made it possible.
Wow.
From the standardized dimensions of the containers themselves
Right.
to the specialized cranes and ships needed to handle them, it was a monumental feat of engineering and logistics.
And it wasn't just about the technology. McLean also understood the importance of standardization. Getting everyone on the same page, from trucking companies to railroads to shipping lines, was essential for creating a seamless intermodal transport system.
And this is where things get really interesting. As containerization gained traction,
Okay.
it started to disrupt established power structures. Traditional ports like New York City struggled to adapt to this new way of doing things, while new container hubs, often in less developed regions, emerged to capitalize on this technological shift.
It was a classic case of the old guard failing to recognize the transformative potential of a new technology.
Right.
Levinson vividly describes the decline of the New York City port, highlighting its outdated infrastructure, labor problems, and fierce resistance to change.
And it wasn't just the ports that were impacted.
Oh.
Longshoremen's unions understandably viewed containerization with fear and suspicion.
Yeah.
Thousands of jobs were at stake, and the prospect of automation threatened to upend their way of life.
Levinson doesn't shy away from the human cost of this technological revolution.
Yeah.
He details the intense labor disputes, the strikes, the negotiations, and the ultimate compromises that were made as workers and employers grappled with this new reality. It's a powerful reminder that progress often comes with a price, and that the benefits of innovation aren't always evenly distributed.
One of the most compelling aspects of the book is Levinson's ability to connect these seemingly disparate threads. The technological advancements, the economic forces, the political battles, and the human stories into a cohesive and captivating narrative.
Interesting.
He shows us how containerization wasn't just a change in how we move goods, but a fundamental shift in how the world works.
And this is where Levinson's work transcends mere historical analysis.
Yeah.
He's not just telling us a story, he's inviting us to engage with the complexities of globalization and consider the potential consequences of our choices.
One thing that really struck me was the pivotal role that containerization played in the Vietnam War.
Right.
Imagine trying to wage a war in a far-off country with limited infrastructure.
It was a logistical nightmare. But the adoption of containers by the U.S. military transformed supply lines, dramatically improving efficiency and reducing losses.
Yeah.
It was a game changer in a conflict marked by chaos and complexity.
And of course, McLean, ever the opportunist, was there to seize the opportunity. His company, Sealand, played a key role in providing container service to Vietnam,
Wow.
further cementing its dominance in the industry.
Huh.
It's a fascinating example of how wartime necessity can drive innovation and reshape global markets.
It's a reminder that even seemingly mundane inventions can have profound geopolitical consequences.
Yeah.
And in the case of the shipping container, those consequences continue to reverberate to this day.
It's incredible to think how this simple idea, born out of frustration with inefficiencies, completely transformed the global landscape. Levinson takes us on a journey through the evolution of this system, highlighting the unexpected consequences and fascinating details along the way.
What's so captivating about Levinson's work is how he manages to weave together these seemingly disparate elements.
Right.
He connects the dots between technological innovations, economic trends, and human stories in a way that makes the complex world of global trade come alive.
For example, he described how railroads initially resisted containerization, clinging to their outdated methods. But McLean, with his relentless focus on efficiency, saw the potential of rail transport to connect his container ships to inland destinations. He pushed for innovation, and gradually cargo handling shifted from trucks to railroads, driven by the cost savings offered by containerized rail transport.
It's a fascinating illustration of how disruption often comes from unexpected places.
Right.
Here you have a trucking entrepreneur revolutionizing the railroads. And it speaks to McLean's ability to adapt, to see the bigger picture, and to leverage existing infrastructure in new and innovative ways.
And as this new system took root, the ripples spread far and wide. Levinson doesn't just focus on the big players like McLean and Sealand.
Right.
He also explores the impact on smaller companies, local economies, and individual workers. He shows us how containerization created both winners and losers, highlighting the complexities of globalization and the uneven distribution of its benefits.
Well, one of the most striking examples is his account of the decline of traditional manufacturing centers.
Right.
As containerization made it cheaper and easier to move goods around the world, companies could shift production to countries with low labor costs.
Yeah.
This led to job losses in developed countries and the rise of new manufacturing hubs in Asia, fundamentally altering the global economic landscape.
It wasn't just about manufacturing.
Yeah.
Levinson shows how containerization transformed entire industries from agriculture to retail.
Yeah.
Suddenly, products could be sourced from anywhere in the world, creating new opportunities for businesses and consumers alike. Think about the abundance of fresh produce we have access to year-round. That's a direct result of containerization.
It's a powerful illustration of how seemingly small changes in logistics can have a cascading effect,
Right.
reshaping entire industries and ultimately impacting our daily lives.
And speaking of impacts, one of the most fascinating aspects of the book is Levinson's exploration of the standardization process.
Oh, okay.
Getting everyone to agree on the size and shape of those containers was no easy feat. It involved countless meetings, negotiations, and compromises between competing interests.
Imagine the chaos if every shipping company had its own container dimensions. It would have been a logistical nightmare.
Right.
Standardization was absolutely essential for creating a truly global system where containers could seamlessly move between ships, trucks, and trains.
Levinson takes us behind the scenes of these negotiations, highlighting the personalities involved, the technical challenges, and the political maneuvering that ultimately led to the adoption of international standards. It's a reminder that even something as seemingly technical as the dimensions of a box can be fraught with complexity and political intrigue.
And it's a testament to the power of collaboration and compromise.
Yeah.
In the end, despite all the competing interests, the industry recognized the need for a common standard, and they found a way to make it work. It's a valuable lesson for any industry facing disruption. Sometimes cooperation is the key to unlocking innovation and progress.
One of the things that really struck me about the book is how Levinson brings the story of containerization to life through vivid anecdotes and personal stories. He doesn't just present dry facts and figures. He introduces us to the people who made it all happen, from the visionary entrepreneurs to the hardworking dock workers.
Absolutely. One of my favorite passages is his description of Malcolm McLean's unorthodox approach to problem solving.
Uh-huh.
He wasn't afraid to think outside the box, pun intended. He was constantly challenging the status quo, looking for ways to improve efficiency and cut costs. And that drive is what ultimately led him to revolutionize the shipping industry.
One of the most memorable anecdotes is about how McLean, frustrated by the slow and costly process of loading and unloading cargo,
Yeah.
decided to simply load entire truck trailers onto ships.
Interesting.
It seems like such a simple solution now, but at the time it was a radical concept.
And it's a great example of how innovation often comes from recognizing and challenging existing assumptions. McLean wasn't a shipping expert, he was a trucking guy. But he saw an opportunity to apply his knowledge of trucking logistics to the maritime world, and it changed everything.
And he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty either. Levinson describes how McLean personally supervised the construction of his first container ships, even climbing inside the tanks to make sure they were properly sealed. He was a hands-on leader who wasn't content to sit in an office and delegate.
That's what makes his story so compelling.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a businessman, he was a visionary, a tinkerer, and a risk taker. He was willing to bet everything on his belief that containerization would change the world, and he was proven right.
As containerization continued to transform global trade, it also brought new challenges.
Right.
Levinson explored the environmental impact of increased shipping, the rise of megaships and megaports, and the growing concerns about security and piracy. He shows us that while containerization has brought immense benefits, it's also created new complexities and risks that we need to address.
It's a reminder that progress is rarely without its downsides. As we continue to rely on containerization to move goods around the world, we need to find ways to mitigate its negative impacts and ensure that its benefits are shared more equitably.
The box is a powerful reminder that seemingly mundane objects can have a profound impact on our lives and our world. Levinson's book is a must-read for anyone who wants to understand how globalization works, where it came from, and where it might be headed.
It's a fascinating and thought-provoking exploration of one of the most important yet often overlooked forces shaping our world.
Right.
And as we move further into the 21st century, the story of the shipping container is only going to become more relevant.
Thinking back on all we've discussed, one of those striking aspects of this story is the sheer scale of the transformation.
It is.
Levinson really drives home the point that containerization didn't just tweak existing systems, it completely revolutionized how goods move around the world.
He describes these modern container ports, these sprawling complexes with towering cranes and seemingly endless rows of containers.
Right.
It's a scale of operation that was unimaginable before containerization.
It makes you realize just how interconnected our world has become.
Yeah.
Products from all corners of the globe can end up on our shelves, thanks to this incredibly complex and efficient system.
And it's a system that's constantly evolving.
Right?
Levinson touches on some of the emerging trends like the rise of megaships and automated ports, which are pushing the boundaries of efficiency even further.
It makes you wonder what's next. What will the future of containerization look like?
That's a great question. And it's one that Levinson leaves us pondering.
Yeah.
He doesn't offer any easy answers, but he does highlight some of the key challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Like the environmental impact of all this shipping.
Right.
As global trade continues to grow, so does the demand for container transport.
Yeah.
We need to find ways to make this system more sustainable if we want to avoid exacerbating climate change.
Exactly. And then there are the social and economic implications. As automation becomes more prevalent in ports and throughout the supply chain, what will happen to the jobs that are currently tied to containerization?
It's a complex issue with no easy solutions.
Yeah.
But the box compels us to think about these questions, to consider the broader implications of this seemingly simple invention.
And ultimately, I think that's what makes this book so valuable.
Yeah.
It's not just a history lesson, it's a call to action. A reminder that we need to be mindful of the consequences of our choices, even when it comes to something as seemingly mundane as a shipping container.
So what does this all mean? What's the lasting legacy of containerization?
Well, I think Levinson makes it clear that containerization has fundamentally reshaped our world for better and for worse.
Right.
It's shrunk the world, connecting economies and cultures in unprecedented ways. It's made goods more accessible and affordable to billions of people. But it's also contributed to economic inequality, environmental degradation, and the erosion of local communities.
It's a complex legacy. And as we move forward, It's crucial that we learn from the past and make conscious choices about how we want to shape the future of containerization.
Absolutely. We need to think critically about the trade-offs involved and work towards creating a more equitable and sustainable system.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
The Box is a fascinating and thought-provoking read.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to gain a deeper understanding of the forces shaping our world.
I couldn't agree more. It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish it.
And a huge thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the Box. Until next time, keep those pages turning.